Hmm.
Picked up one of your mugs when I visited near Columbus, Ohio, a couple of years ago.
Okay, Steve, we're live everywhere.
I bought this new $20 webcam because won't go into the details, but I needed a camera rather than the one on the computer. And as you can see, the white balance is a little crazy. And I haven't looked into seeing how it can be fixed. Maybe it can't at the price I paid.
You're
Maybe you
breaking
should
up
hold
for
a
me,
maybe you should
Steve. I
hold a
don't know
white
if it
card up to the camera and see if it reacts.
was Steve breaking up for everybody else also just now.
Was I breaking up?
You
Not,
were breaking up. You're very pixelated here.
not here.
Not
Oh, the picture, you're saying.
well.
How about the audio?
Well, I'd say the audio was breaking up for me, but I don't know if it was on your end or my end.
It
Both are
was
good here.
fine here.
Yeah, it comes and goes.
Okay. Well, let me know if it happens again.
Yeah. I will only if we can't really hear. If I can't really hear you, I'll assume maybe.
Okay.
Okay. Well, we
Maybe
can.
if I don't talk as much, that would help.
Ah. Okay. Well, we might as well start.
Yep. Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our July meeting. I want to start by thanking the New Jersey Antique Radio Club for sponsoring the meeting and providing the Zoom feed. That's very appreciated. Why don't we start by, I don't think we need your speech anymore, Dave. I think everybody's being pretty good.
Yep, we're good.
Yep. Start by see if there's anybody who is new to the meeting that would like to introduce themselves.
Well, I announced earlier that I haven't been to a meeting for some time. I'm Ed Williams, former PBS engineer up in Alexandria, Virginia, and moved here to Villages in Florida in 2007. And I've subsequently moved here into independent living at Freedom Point, also in the Villages. And I'm doing very well. Thank you very much.
Welcome back. Enjoy the Villages. Anybody else? Well, I guess I will give my brief report. We now have 250 members. Sort of interesting, a number of something like 30 last year's members have not rejoined. I don't know if this is typical because I haven't kept track of it, but we have many more new members who have come on board, which is nice. We're up to almost $3,000 in sweepstakes ticket sales. That's about almost 30% of what we need to award the prize. We're on a good pace. I think we won't have any trouble getting above the $8,000 minimum and probably substantially higher than that. If you haven't bought tickets, do it. Right now, there's a 30% bonus ticket offer for another few days. If you have bought tickets, consider buying some more so you increase your chances of winning. And talk to your friends. The prizes are just fantastic. You can go on the website and get details about them. Our upcoming event, next one is the Swap Meet, which is October 18th at the museum. Details are on the website again. It's going to be, we're also going to have the drawing for the sweepstakes winners. And that's also going to be a work day, and we're going to encourage people, anybody who could stay, that's a Saturday. We're going to encourage anybody who could stay through Sunday or part of Sunday to stick around. We are almost finished with moving all the CRTs out of the storage locker. I think we have about 30 more to move. Bob Dobush has been doing that whenever he travels through Columbus on his way to wherever he's going, he takes a load or two. So all of them will be over there so we can get out of that storage locker, save ourselves a chunk of money. But all those tubes are going to need to be put up in storage at the museum to get them out of the way. Right now, they're just crowding the warehouse floor, and we're going to need to put them away. And we have some other projects too. So if you can come to the swap meet, we'd love to see you. If you could stay for the rest of the day or the next day to help out with things, that would be appreciated too. And the only other thing of interest, I think, is Bob is on his way to pick up the Westinghouse color set that we bought at auction. I can't remember if I mentioned this at the last meeting or not. I've lost track of time. Did I go over it? I did.
Yes.
Okay. Anyway, it's going to be here. I think he said he was going up Monday to pick it up. That was his plan. He has to work about getting it through customs, which shouldn't be a problem, but you never know. I'm very anxious to see if it's got a good 15G in it. Don't get my hopes up because very few of those tubes are good. So that's about all I've got on the museum. Anybody have any questions or comments? I see people shaking their heads. So no. So okay.
Quick,
Well, go
quick
ahead.
question. On
Yeah.
the user labeled Samsung SMG955U, is that the new General Electric television that you purchased recently in the photo?
That's the new GE. Yeah.
Okay, beautiful.
I think it's the prettiest of the pre-war sets, and
Mhm.
it's in really, really nice condition. We're
where
lucky
did
to
you-
get it.
Where did
I
you
think
find
there are
it?
only two more of them.
Where did you locate that one?
It was I was contacted by a museum in Schenectady, New York, that was having financial difficulties, and they were disposing of all of their stuff. They had to move out of the building, they thought. I think that's changed since then. But they had a whole list of TV sets. They sent me a list of them, and most of them were nondescript sets, except for this one.
Yeah.
And so we made them an offer, which was a good price for us and good for them too, because they really needed the money. And it almost fell through because right after we made the offer, somebody else stepped up and made an offer to buy everything, all their television sets. They had about 70 of them.
Oh.
Fortunately, the guy I was dealing with decided he was going to honor our offer because he'd already agreed to it. And so we went up and picked it up, brought it back down, and Bob Dobush did. Beautiful set. Any other comments, questions? All right. What I'm going to feature today is a couple of advertising items that we've acquired recently. Let's see if Larry, I don't see Larry's picture up here anymore. Oh, there he is, right. Okay, Larry set this out. Let me, Dave, can you make him
Yep,
full screen?
coming up.
Okay.
Here we go.
Okay, this is only one of the items in a display from 1939 that was actually a display for RCA radios that were designed to work with the TT5. But this is a brand new factory display. It's never been used. We have the box, and there are all kinds of other advertising stuff in there. We're going to set up a display when I get back in town. You can see some of the other things that Larry has taken out of the box. We're going to be setting up a display in the pre-war room with all those. So there's some more issue. Oh, nice. He's got everything out. But this is obviously one of a kind. We got this from Daryl Hawk when he was actively collecting, and he's, I guess, sort of slowly getting rid of the stuff in his collection. And this is one thing that he offered to us because he thought it ought to be in a museum, and I'm glad we were able to get it. Now, the other thing we got is a, yeah, why don't you go ahead and show us more of the pictures. Now, here's another thing that we got. This was donated to us recently. This is a brochure for the RCA product line, and it's also from 1939 or maybe 40. Larry will sort of flip through and show you. It's the whole thing is on the website, but it's the most elaborate brochure I've seen for RCA. That's the Larry. Pause there. Go back one page. There we go. That is the phonograph adapter. The RCA TRK9 and 12 have a phonograph input on them. They don't have phonographs built into them, but they do have this jack for plugging in a 78 RPM player. Go ahead, Larry, turn the page. There's a little push for their testing. And there is a console radio that you could get with it, I guess. There's a picture of the Lucite TRK12 that's in Toronto now. And here's the prices of the TRK12 and the companion stereo system U46.
Steve, note the date up there. It says 1940
1940. Yeah, I thought it was
in the headline.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yep. And there's their installation service and one of their antennas. They had several different antennas available. And their service. And these are testimonials. It's interesting, it's 1940, but they're advertising a TRK-12 rather than a 120. And there is a pitch for financing your set. So anyway, that's the fanciest brochure we have, and we have several, but this is the most complete one, and we're really glad to have it.
It's amazing to think that that's 45 years old, 85 years old now.
85 years old, yes.
85, my goodness.
That is amazing.
In living blue and white.
living blue and white. Yeah, right. So anybody got any comments or questions?
Steve, I have a 8x10 1939 photograph of that first, of the display in the window of a radio TV shop.
Ah, nice.
I could send you a copy of that photo if you
I would
like.
love that. I'd love that. Put it on the site.
Yeah. I also have a t-shirt transfer of that advertisement also, if you would like to make some and sell them at your museum.
Hey, that would be neat. I'll bet that would sell. We sell quite a few T-shirts as it is. It would add one more thing to the. Let me mention something else about the. Well, first of all, any more comments or questions about this? Then I want to go back to something about the museum.
Where could stations be found in order to use those television sets described in that 1940 brochure?
Well, the majority of the sets were in New York, but there were stations in Schenectady had a station, Boston had a station, Chicago had a couple of stations, Los Angeles had a couple of stations, and we have found RCA sets in Chicago and in California, in Los Angeles. We've also found them in various other places. We found one in Kansas. There's a TV station that was broadcasting from Kansas City. It was actually a training school.
Philadelphia, don't forget Philadelphia had one.
Philadelphia had a station. That's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
What frequency band? 39 megahertz?
No, they were all that they had channel allocations at that time, channel 1 through 6, I think, or 1 through 5. And they started, I think, at about 45 megahertz, and went up to 6 megahertz increments after that.
Mhm.
Any other? Nat, good to see you. Been a while.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm going to bring in a book that's an RCA thing. I'll be right back. An
Okay,
RCA.
fantastic. Great. Any other comments? Well, let me go back to the museum for something I forgot that happened in the last month or two. I mentioned this a long time ago, but we have a writer, actually a couple of writers that have made a series of mini books on various subjects. And they have decided to start a new series of sort of like funky museums. They've been out to the museum and have photographed extensively, and I've given them all kinds of information, and they're going to make a booklet. It's going to be hardcover, but it's going to have 40 or 50 of our top items in it with pictures and descriptions along with text about the museum. And these are going to be for sale nationwide, but also we're going to have them at the museum to sell. So look forward to that coming out probably the end of this year. Nat?
This is something I bought from Eric Kuhn probably about 15 years ago or 10 years ago. It's called Television's First Year. And it's a summary of people's feedback and lists all the kinds of programming. It focuses mostly on the programming.
Right.
And during their first year, they sent out comment cards that were actually television schedules for the NBC station. And then there was a comment card on the back, and people would write on that and just drop it at the post office. And it was, it would have, what did you think of this program and that program? And they would give a quick rating to it. Let's see if I can find any. It's really just very similar to that, the one you just showed. And it has events going on. But I really like the cover because it says Television's First Year, and it has a photograph of a DC-3 that flew over Washington, D.C. with a transparent title. And that flew over Washington, D.C., and they were able to pick up the New York station because they were at a high elevation. And they were just seeing what line of sight could do. Yep, it's about the size of a Time magazine or a Newsweek. Okay.
Very nice.
And I have another one.
The cover allows you to put it in front of yourself and you can be on TV.
Yes. Do you recognize this one? It has a spiral spine to it. And it shows how television works, and it shows the TRK-12, 9, the TRK-5, and the TT-5, the famous photographs that you've all seen the photographs on the website, same photographs, people watching the sets, and then it shows a field test set and explains how television works and the frequencies and their $2 million investment in getting television off the air. And I think this might have been sent to radio dealers. I don't know. I can unwrap it if you want, or just let you proceed with whatever you were going to talk about.
Well, it's the next thing on the agenda is open discussion. So be a good place to start.
Okay. Also, I have very early television guides, TV guides from Chicago, from New York, and then around the country. I don't know if ETF is interested in TV guides because it's really the programming, but the earliest ones do get in. The earliest TV guides talk about how television works. And I have one from Pittsburgh, and this person's sending a letter saying, please don't change your frequency from channel 3 to channel 2, the Dumont station. Please don't change the frequency because I love watching Houston. And then the article, the editor explains, that's an anomaly. That's skip. That doesn't normally happen. You don't get Houston in Pittsburgh. And it was very strange. DX kind of things. Another one is another issue talks about a lady saying, I just love my UHF converter. Now I can get all the programs, and television is so wonderful. And all this feedback about the early days of TV are in some of these old TV guides. Oh, you're muted, Steve.
That's fascinating.
Well, I'm curious. Is the audio coming through?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh. These booklets you mentioned,
Mhm.
Are they going to have engineering description of how the engineering advanced or affected the advancement of the associated technology, that television prompted? I mean,
This-
the booklets that should be available at the end of this year, is it just going to be, here's this, and, or is it going to say, here's what the advancements were in an engineering sense behind the development of television? I'm just curious.
Well, the little booklet that's coming out is going to be basically non-technical.
Oh,
It's for the general public.
oh, okay. So it might improve museum attendance or something.
Exactly.
Okay.
Mhm.
No, what would it show? What is they, do you know what they're going to display? What early set or the earliest set?
Well, I sent them. They asked me to send my top 50 sets
Yeah.
items in the museum, and so I picked them. So I assume those what's going to be in them. There are going to be a number of mechanical sets, a number of British,
Yeah, okay.
American pre-war sets, all the way up through broadcast equipment.
Okay, so they go from flying spot to
Yes.
electron, I mean, scanning in various forms, magnetic and electrostatic.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and on through color.
Oh, all right. Like what is it, a CT 100 or something like that?
Yep.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Can I make a suggestion, Steve?
Yes.
You might want to check out a website if you're interested in learning some of the earlier technology, worldradiohistory.com. And if you
Yep.
go through there, they have all the early television magazines that do get into a lot of technical stuff, right from the scanning discs through the first television stuff. There's Television Magazine, there's a whole bunch of them, and it's just a free download. It's an amazing site. You should really check out worldradiohistory.com.
I think we have a link to it on our site, and we have several links to several individual magazines also in there.
Hey, Steve, I have a picture I'd like to share if we're moving on.
Absolutely.
Please.
See if I could do this. Dave, you might need to help me out. Let's see, it's this one. Is that coming up? One more click.
Yeah.
No, I might have to drag it over to this page. Did you get dog eyes or a picture of a TV set?
Yeah.
At the back of a TV.
Okay. If you look at I found this in a box of papers I was going through. I bought a long time ago, actually looking for something radio related, but found this one. And if you read what it says on it, CA color television receiver, February 20th, 1941. And there's a little note on the back. It looks like it's a press release kind of photo, because that's a lot of what was in this collection of stuff that I had bought. And I had never seen, or I even looked through the RCA Blue books and haven't seen anything about this particular experimental set. It does say on the back that it was made into the cabinet for a TRK 90. And it even looks like they might have made use of some of the same kind of chassis that would be in a 90. And that could be a 9-inch picture tube that's behind the scanning wheel. So I was just curious as to if anyone else has ever heard of this type of a test receiver. Most of the RCA tests around that vintage, they were using either 3 CRTs and projection. I've never saw anything about them using a scanning wheel like this, a color wheel.
I was going to say, it doesn't look like a scanning wheel. It looks like a color wheel.
Yeah, I should have said that. Sorry, color wheel.
I've seen the press photo and read about CBS doing color experiments around 1941, 41, and there's a photograph of a TRK 9 in their press photos, among other things, and their antenna on top of the Chrysler building is there. And then there's a couple of other sets that they built for the press.
I know RCA was always against the color wheels because they wanted to be compatible. But even 41 is early for that worry about being compatible or not. So I just and like I said, the lower chassis kind of look like what you might find in a TRK9. I don't know about the one in the middle. But if they knew what CBS was doing, they wanted to do their own experiments to see how viable this would be. It's the only thought I'm coming up with.
RCA did try a scanning disc, or not a scanning disc, a color wheel set early on, more or less to prove that their approach was superior.
More to prove that.
I was gonna say, I know I read somewhere about
You
them
didn't.
experimenting with the color disc, but their main public output from that was to poo-poo it.
Yeah, that's pretty much the feeling I'm getting too. And I don't see the collection was related to the Radio News magazine. One of their editors, Washburn, had all these papers that have made it around the collecting community, and that's what was it? One of the things in that box. So maybe they sent it to be published with something that never made it into publication, because I've never seen it in a Radio News or anything.
Hey, Mike, this is Dave Arlen. I just put in the chat from the museum website, actually, the RCA's lists of TV firsts, and that list does say that in 41 and 1940 they were doing scanning or color wheel demonstrations, but by 45 they had moved to an all electronic option.
That's good. That's good to know.
That's a cool picture.
Yeah.
It is. I like the back of the set. It looks like the radio chassis in the middle.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute. Yeah. That might be the
No,
television.
I think that looks like a standard TRK9 television chassis.
Television. Okay, so maybe they yanked the radio out of the thing.
Yep.
To make room for all of this.
Right.
This is the Tournament of Roses from 1954 edition of TV Guide that I'm holding up. If you want, I can read.
I think I might have to stop sharing.
Okay. Okay, so I was going to read the description of the broadcast because it's probably the most interesting thing in the TV Guide. January 1st, I've got to find the listing. Okay.
What year?
January 1st, 1954. This is when there's an article that was written by Ed Reitan about when he first saw television, color television, and he saw this broadcast in Omaha, Nebraska. And it's a great write-up of how he did it. There's a Rose Bowl game, but that was black and white. Okay, so yes, okay. So this is what's odd. There's a full-page ad here, and it's advertising Channel 4 New York doing the Tournament of Roses. However, there's no mention of color in the ad, probably because nobody could watch it at home. You'd have to have gone to a demonstration site like a hotel lobby. But I'm going to read the description of the Tournament of Roses here. Yes, just the part about the color. The festivities from Pasadena, California. This would have been 12:15 Eastern time, so 9:15 in the West. And that was the 12 stations or whatever that broadcast in color, and they put model Steve, tell me what the model number is, Model 5 or the field test color set that basically looks like a CT100. You have one in
That's
the
right.
collection.
That's right, a Model 5.
Model 5. Okay, so that's what people would have seen this on. And Ed Reitan saw this as well and described seeing it in the middle of the winter. And it was he said it was such a contrast to snow and whiteness and grayness of winter to see all this color coming on a little box that it changed his life. So this is the official description in the TV guide. It says the festivities from Pasadena, California. Don Amici is host with announcers Roy Neal and Jimmy Wallington. The parade will be telecast in color through the use of the only fully equipped color mobile unit in existence. Major General William F. Dean will be the Grand Marshal, and then it just goes on describing floats and things. But the fact that it mentions the mobile unit. And then I have some other TV guides from the summer of 1954, and one of them has a Today Show, and it says the color mobile van unit is now in Cleveland, Ohio, where our segment from there will be broadcast in color. And these kind of little highlights, and there's only like 2 color programs a week or so on NBC, and CBS starts getting into it as well. And it's just fascinating to go through and look at the 54 to 1957 or so ones when they talk about color and the programming that was in color.
It's interesting to me that in mid-1954, they could get a color signal from Cleveland to the network.
Yeah, I think they put it in the coaxial cable and sent it both ways, east and west. I have somebody put in the comments a TK41. Yeah, they had those gigantic TK40 and 41 cameras that are the size of a Volkswagen Bug. They're just huge and heavy.
Would those receivers be some forebearer to CT100? What would they had to be all electronic, I'm assuming.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What
NTS?
How would there be TVs, or was it CT100 that old, or how would they receive that?
Okay, so the January 1st broadcast of the Rose Parade was viewed on Model 5 sets that basically look like CT100s. And I don't know the technical differences that would be between the two sets, but CT100s, I believe, became available around April of 1954. So there's not a lot of color telecasting, except for mostly for experimental reasons and demonstrations.
But it would have been. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, and they would have probably had the Model 5s and then later the first CT100s placed in the lobby of hotels or city halls, public places where people could go and see them before they put them on sale in April or May of that year.
Would the picture tubes in those sets, Model 5, be precursors or alike the one that was used in the CT100 with the triangular arrangement of the red, green, and blue phosphorus? What kind of tube would that have been?
It was the same tube basically. Maybe the early Model 5s used developmental tube, but it was essentially the 15. It came out as the 15 GP22 during the time that the Model 5s were introduced.
So that was
it has a different part number beginning with a C, but it's a 15 GP22. And if you want to try to identify one, the easiest way to do it is the difference in the grille on the cabinet. The chassis and all look just about identical.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the same one in the CT100, the picture? Yeah. I mean, so whatever that name was that the same or a special number for the precursor to the one
It's just that it was a developmental set. It wasn't built for public sale.
Okay. So the picture tubes are prototypical?
Yeah. And they seem to last longer than the 15Gs. Mine is still pretty good.
Is it true the red gun tend to fail because it had to be hotter or something for the phosphor sensitivity?
I don't know about that.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's true, and that was true of the 21-inch tubes when they came out because they did have to be driven harder and
Hmm.
put more strain on the electron gun. That
Mhm.
wasn't the main failure of the 15G though. The 15G problem was air leakage.
Oh, the vacuum failed.
Yes.
Hmm.
Another note about the network is not all the AT&T coaxial cables had the bandwidth to carry a full NTSC signal. And RCA came up with a heterodyne technique where they move the color carrier from 3.6 megahertz down to 2.5 or so, and limited the luminance bandwidth to about 2 megahertz. So that way they could get color signals over parts of the network that wouldn't work otherwise. And I don't know how many times they did that, or if it was just something, a technique they kept in their back pocket. But that would have made kind of VHS quality pictures at the time.
What was the quality of just black and white then when you say VHS in color? But how would the quality of a black and white image have been, even with this modified color modulation or whatever it was? When you say VHS, would that be for both black and white or color? Was that about 200 lines or something? I don't know.
It's about half the of the full 4 megahertz bandwidth, so it's very similar to a VHS picture in that regard.
But I mean, like a TV like that, would it be 525 lines? I don't know.
Oh, there's no difference in the scanning. It's just the video bandwidth was less.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Another fun thing to look at in these early TV guides from the mid 50s, even up to the late 50s, there's when you get a TV guide that lists multiple cities, it'll often say channel 33 does not telecast in color, or channel 33 does not color cast. Those are the ones from the early 60s when ABC started putting color on, and the Cleveland station had the color, but the station in Youngstown, they didn't have the equipment to transmit color. And so you'll see that occasionally in some of these TV guides that list multiple cities, and the lesser market will say something like channel 12 does not color cast. But the program is listed in color on the other stations that are listed. And it's just fascinating to read these little footnotes to the growth of color television.
And the incredible change from a TK41 down to the little pinhole camera at the top of your laptop.
Okay.
Wayne, maybe you know something about this, but didn't they do a lot of research that that the color part of the signal was more important to the eye than the luminance channel? That's why they could get away with that kind of thing. I've read that in a couple of places.
What kind of thing are you talking?
Well, when you reduce the bandwidth on a luminance channel,
Yeah.
that the color to the viewer, the color part gives you better recognition of what you're seeing than the luminance part.
Well, it depends on what the contrast is in each channel. There's the general rule is that the luminance channel is more important, but there are cases where objects are equal luminance coming out of the camera, and therefore the only distinction is color. That where that tends to happen is on commercial packaging of consumer goods. There were some detergent boxes that used, like bright orange and cyan colors that were very close to the same luminance coming out of the signal, coming out of the camera. And in that case, the color was definitely important, but the places where you see those comments about color being such a big improvement in perception is always with regard to the CBS system, because they wanted to claim that adding color was as good as adding lines of resolution, which they didn't have, But there's an interesting story about the early days of high definition when Zenith and AT&T were cooperating on a proposed system. The digital encoders were so complex for the semiconductors of the day that it took like 3 chest-high racks in a row to do the color encoding. Because of the complexity, the AT&T lab decided to do the motion detection on luminance only, which normally would be okay in most cases, because for most scenes that don't include that detergent box, the luminance contrast is the main visual effect, and it's going to appear in the luminance channel, and the motion detector will see it there. They did a fancy demonstration video, and the set designer found a sofa with red, green, and blue patterns. And it turned out that the red, green, and blue patches all came out to the identical luminance out of the camera. And so when the camera panned, the couch moved, but the pattern stood still. And of course, before we could put that out for public demo, we had to have a fix. And our video engineer at Zenith says, I know, I'll fix it. And he just adjusted the white balance over towards pink so that the red patches were brighter in the luminance channel, and that solved the problem. But the color balance of the scene was not at all what the set designer had planned.
Were you describing an analog to digital converter with 3 racks or something? What is that?
Well, the MPEG encoder is what I'm describing, although at that time, MPEG was only MPEG-2 was only one of the proposed encoders. MPEG-2 had just barely been standardized, and so some of the proponents were proposing their own video encoding schemes, including AT&T.
Do you know what the bit depth was that they needed, or
Oh, at
approximately?
that time, nothing was more than eight bits per channel, so 24
Seriously?
bits.
That's it?
It was just all that you could do with the existing semiconductors to, put an encoder together. And of course, at the rate semiconductor intensity increases within a couple of years, it was much more doable and compact. And of course, now you have encoders that are much more complex than MPEG-2 in your computer and your phone and everywhere.
Well, 8 bits is 256 gray levels. That's all they needed then?
That's the best they could do, and it's actually adequate for almost all video that isn't high dynamic range. There are cases if you have, especially if you have a very clean camera source, or if the source is a computer generated, where 8 bits is not enough, you'll see banding. And in the early days, the way you were saved is because the sources were noisy, so they dithered those 8 bits, whether you intended them to or not. But that got rid of the banding.
Huh, so they dithered the digital signal or the analog before it was converted to the 8-bit?
Well, they didn't do it deliberately, but the cameras were noisy enough that the noise dithered the signal.
Oh, okay. So they got away with it.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you know what the frequency of the conversion was? 8 bits with all the racks. I mean, in hertz or something?
Yeah, the pixel rate was determined by the resolution and the frame rate and whether it was interlaced or progressive.
Yeah. Thank you.
The HD cameras to start with had tube pickup. They were not solid state sensors yet, and they all used Satacons with special small cathodes to get the small spot size and the resolution. And Sony would, at the time, would guarantee them only for 800 hours of use because the cathodes could wear out or be contaminated in a short time. 800 hours is ridiculously small for studio use or even for experimental use. And we at Zenith, I think we put on, trying to remember, but I think it was like several thousands of hours. And then we swapped out the tubes just for safety's sake and put the original tubes in storage as backups. But the instructions from Sony were to fire up the camera at least once a month for a couple of hours to sweep out any gas that had infiltrated into the tubes.
I'm curious about that 8-bit A to D converter. How many times per second approximately was the signal converted to 8 bits or thereabout?
Well, you can calculate it out. It's 1920 by 1080 by 30.
I don't know what that means.
Well, 1920 pixels wide, 1080 pixels high by 30 frames per second. That'll give you the pixel rate.
Oh, no, I mean in the old analog thing that was earlier described. There are 3 racks or whatever.
That's what I was describing.
So that's the resolution of transmissions?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's not the analog thing. That was digital.
So it didn't start analog at the camera point.
Yeah, but it had to be encoded digitally, or it would be useless as a broadcast system.
Mm-hmm.
No possible way you could broadcast an analog HD signal.
Well, does that mean that each pixel had 256 gray levels or something for red, green, or blue?
Yes.
I know. Okay, all right. At some given video rate for this thing.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Well, was that color or black and white? The 3 racks full.
It was colored.
Oh, it was.
Yeah, the whole system, including the encoder and decoder, took 8 racks, and they were these blue racks, like kind of 4 feet tall, and on casters, and we called them the blue cows.
So those were like relay racks?
Like standard equipment racks.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay.
19-inch wide.
Yep, okay.
Yeah. AT&T also did something clever to help debug the things, and the encoder and decoder were designed to break up the image into 6 segments, and then there were 6 encoder cards and 6 decoder cards, and they did the encoding segments in horizontal bands and the decoding segments in vertical bands. So if one of the cards started to go bad, they could tell whether it was in the encoder or the decoder by was the bad part of the image vertical or horizontal.
What year is this about?
Like 91.
Oh, that
92.
recent? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Hey, Mike, did you have more you wanted to talk about that RCA set?
No, I'm glad to hear it was at least listed somewhere as something they were doing, and no, I just wanted to share it with everybody. I did want to ask Wayne a question again. when you talked about the picture being broken up into 6 segments, was that when they were talking about broadcasters having the option to have 6 different programs on different channels on cable?
No,
No, that's different.
That was entirely a different thing. That's
Okay.
that segmenting into channels is much farther down the encoding chain. This was at the point where it took 8 racks just to do an end-to-end for a single picture stream.
And are you talking about hardware that Zenith was doing, or that committee or whatever it was? Was that being done as a group or just Zenith?
At this point, that hardware was just AT&T and Zenith, and the General Instrument was doing their own, and RCA was doing their own. And in fact, Zenith and AT&T had proposed a hybrid system that was mostly analog with some motion vectors that were digital, but in the background and very hush-hush, they were working on developing a digital system. And General Instrument was also secretly developing a high-definition digital system. They had already had a partial digital system for standard definition for satellite, but they combined with MIT and announced their digital system as a complete surprise. But fortunately, Zenith and AT&T had been working in the background, so they were ready to announce shortly thereafter, and then RCA went digital as well, and that's when the whole selection process got reset, and the Grand Alliance was formed to take the best of all the proposals. But up to that point, there was a lot of work on analog systems or partially analog systems. RCA had a advanced TV system that wasn't full high definition and that was analog, in which they tried to fit additional subcarriers in with the color subcarrier. And my understanding is the guy in charge of the project had a artifact budget, and every week they were supposed to reduce the visibility of the artifacts to a certain degree, and it was just an impossible task, really, because anything you do to reduce the visibility of those subcarriers means you would make them noisier and make the picture on existing sets better, but make the picture in your new system worse.
What were the artifacts being addressed? Were those in some analog form? When you say artifact,
For that system,
how would that
yeah. Well, you talk about what kind of artifacts do you get in NTSC. In a black and white receiver, you see dot patterns, and in a color receiver, you may see dot patterns on edges. And if you try to add more subcarriers, then those subcarriers could produce color patterns in an NTSC color receiver or produce noise-like patterns on the edges where there is high frequency luminance information where you're trying to increase the resolution and sharpness.
Were the artifacts some form of heterodyning with all these frequency things involved together?
Oh, yeah.
That's what they were? Heterodyning?
Yeah.
Perhaps? Oh, gotcha. Okay. That's nasty.
Yeah.
So that could.
Well, it's just like in NTSC, if you have, Johnny Carson's tweed jacket, it can heterodyne into the color channel and look like shimmering rainbows. So it's similar kinds of things.
So in essence, the artifacts were dynamic in nature, depending on viewpoint. Now, did they have anything to do with multiple reflections? You see shadows, if there were buildings nearby or something. Were those
I don't know if they ever really got to that point of testing for performance with ghosts.
Okay. So this was just the nature of the initial transmission.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, thanks. So it was basically an analog manifestation.
Oh yeah,
Gotcha.
That system was all analog, and they. I shouldn't use the word cheated, but really they cheated in every way possible, including having lower resolution in the outer edges of the 60:9 picture, and whatever else they could do to improve the picture overall, but maybe not have it perfect everywhere.
So they were manipulating the heterodyning in essence?
Well, I don't know how to describe that.
Oh, okay. No, I'm just curious. Thanks.
But they had subcarriers that not only in the region of the colored subcarrier, but in the lower vestigial sideband of the NTSC luminance, where a normal NTSC receiver has a vestigial sideband Nyquist slope. So they could put a fair amount of energy in there that wouldn't show up strongly in an existing receiver.
I have to ask this. So when you had color transmissions, were these artifacts the same, given there was heterodyning, or when you have more analog signals, frequencies in color, did that produce a unique set of artifacts as opposed to just a pure black and white transmission? Or
I don't think anybody was expecting black and white transmissions to be any significant percent of service. I mean, everything was already color at that time, so the whole
gotcha. Okay.
The whole project was aimed at fitting it into a color signal.
Gotcha. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, there were, in the 80s, there were already things being done with NTSC that really were not supposed to be done, like the analog cable systems left the color burst on constantly. So you would end up with black and white movies having all kinds of color crosstalk where the receivers thought it was a colored signal because the burst was there.
Well, I'm very curious then, with the transition to a purely digital televising system, did artifacts still occur, or were they eliminated because you did?
Some NTSC artifacts were eliminated, and
Yeah.
digital artifacts were substituted.
Yeah, exactly. Gotcha. All right.
Just the first successful systems, the MPEG encoder efficiency was such that one high quality, high definition signal would fit in the channel. And at that point, 98% of the data was being thrown away, and the 2% that was important for defining the image was left. But then as the encoders improved, that was improved almost 2-to-1. And so now you have it's very common that a broadcast station will have one high definition, high quality main signal and a bunch of auxiliary programs that are standard definition, or maybe even high definition, but not as clear and with more artifacts. But essentially, just the MPEG-2, just because of the improvements in the encoders, produce a high definition picture of high quality with only 1% of the data that originally comes out of the camera. And the other more advanced codecs that are used on computers, they have improved that several times over. One of the things that did not work well in the earliest days of digital high definition was basketball games where they had flash bulbs in the ceiling for the official photographers. And if you watch a basketball game, you can see that as the photographer triggers them, you get a white frame that's completely blanked out and it just flashes. Well, the earlier encoders didn't know about this, and they would see this huge change in the scene and think, oh, I've got to spend a lot of bits to make this difference, and wipe out the scene that was there and substitute it with a plain blank white screen. At that point, the buffer would be full and there were no bits left to restore the scene of the basketball court in the next frame. And so you would get a flash, and then you get a very noisy and pixelated appearance that would fade away to a decent rendition. Well, the encoder makers had to put in additional frames of storage that would detect. This is the picture of the basketball court. This is completely different. But this third one is just like the 1-2 frames back. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ignore this flash of white. I'll spend very few bits on it. and I'll save the bits to reproduce the picture of the basketball court in the third frame. You know, and this fortunately was all doable because the standard said that the decoder had to have those frames of storage, so it could be told to refer to 2 frames back instead of refer to just the previous frame.
That had to use a massive amount of very high speed and very expensive memory space.
Well, at first it was, and the first prototype receivers, as I said, they used several 19-inch racks to do all this.
Yeah.
But and as it got integrated, it got down to a few chips and then 1 chip, and the chip started to include both the RF decoding as well as the video decoding, and in a few years, it got to the point where you could have a single chip that did the RF reception, the video decoding, and the translation to NTSC, and that's how you got the $60 set-top converter box.
Were those made in Japan by any chance? I'm sorry.
Japan, Korea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anybody recognize this device?
Mm-hmm.
It's fascinating because it's called a DTC 100. One of the engineers that worked on it was a TV collector. His name is Jeff Londero from Carmel, Indiana. And he helped design this thing. It was released in 1999 as the first DTV digital television receiver. And the thing that I find so curious about it is it kind of has a look of RCA's 630 TS. Kind of, it looks a little bit like an RCA 630 TS, the way the center of it's raised up where the buttons are instead of a picture tube. But
it does look like that in that, but the reason we designed it that way was because there's a cooling fan in the center part to keep the chip cool so that it would work, and we didn't want people stacking other components on top of it. So that's why it's strangely designed. It also integrates DirecTV. That was the first, not only the first DTV receiver, but also it has DirecTV, the old version of DirecTV built in.
Yeah. I used it for that too. I got it in 2000, and it was fascinating to use to watch. Just a minute. It got a little heavy. I used to watch the CBS feed out of Augusta, Georgia, because I lived in a high-rise apartment and I could get a direct line of sight to it. Beautiful picture on their digital television, and they were the only, they and the educational station in Columbia, South Carolina, where I had lived, were the only signals. And when CBS Analog Network went to commercials on a program like Everybody Loves Raymond, they would run this sort of promo reel for CBS programming that was in high definition television. And that was probably around 2000 and 2001. When I moved to Indiana for a while, they had other feeds that they only broadcast. They only used the digital stations on UHF at the time. They only used the digital stations to simulcast and send you the high definition image when the program was in HD. When the program was not in HD on CBS or NBC, they would just show you this loop that they had created. And so that was the only the only pioneering of TV that I ever got to see as a viewer, because I wasn't around for the introduction of color. And obviously none of us were around for the introduction of television, but yeah. So Dave Arlen, you worked up in
Carmel.
in Carmel?
Yes.
Okay.
And interesting story about that box. I was in charge of the press conference when we introduced it in 1998. And we had a consumer write to us telling us about his, I think, 1972 or 1973 RCA television and how it was still going strong. And he was so happy with it. So I contacted him and I bought it from him, exchanged it for a new RCA set. And we connected that DTC 100 to the 1973 era television and showed that off at the press conference to show how an analog television could be converted to probably have the best signal it had ever seen. And
Yeah.
that made a big deal. We flew the set to Florida and introduced it there. So that was it. And I have one of those. I don't use it anymore, but I have one in my basement. So.
Yep. I pulled this out of the closet because this is probably the only group of people that would want to see something like that.
That's fair. That's true.
It hasn't been used for a long time. Like for example, DirecTV got rid of it was an MPEG-3 or that system.
MPEG-2, yes. Yeah.
2, and they upgraded, and the box was no longer able to receive their high definition signals when they started adding local channels to their offerings.
But if you were to plug it in, ATSC 1.0 still is on the air and probably will be for a few more years, so it should still work.
Mm-hmm.
You'd have to.
Oh yeah, no, it'll pick up my local broadcast stations just fine. Yeah, of course I like the little Zenith boxes. Those things they seem to be more sensitive.
That was 10 years later. So
yeah, right.
2000. Wayne and I worked together on those because I eventually left and then went to work with Zenith. And so they weren't the little converter boxes, the $40 converter boxes from Zenith were not the highest selling converters, but they were like the second highest. So millions of those little guys were sold. And I'm sure all of us on this call probably have one because we're using them to power our analog TVs.
I attach pre-war televisions to them because you got to feed them something on channel 3.
What pre-war sets do you have, Nat?
Oh, okay, I have a TRK5.
Okay.
A TT5, a GE-HM 171, and recently acquired back in April, I bought Eric Kuhn's HM 185 console 5-inch GE set. And that's probably the rarest one.
That's fantastic. Where are you located?
Monterey, California.
Beautiful.
Yeah. How about you? Do you have some pre-war sets?
I have a TRK 12 that is operational. Thank you, Steve, for your help in shipping me a tube adapter to get that thing working when the picture tube went out a couple years ago. Fortunately, I had one of the Thomas replacement tubes, but that's the only pre-war set that I have. I'll probably have one or two or three.
I like the fact that mine all use 5-inch tubes because they can be replaced, unlike the TRK 9 and the 12. Beautiful sets, big and heavy, but hard. Probably impossible to get the tubes for now.
That would be
an interesting story. Where Nat got his RCA sets is many, many years ago. Nat had an RR359 that he had restored. And we very much wanted it for the museum. So we arranged a trade for the RR359 for some of the pre-war sets.
It's true. So I got in the trade. They got the ETF got the 9-inch RR359. I think it's one of two of that type that exist. And then and maybe the person running the camera, I think I saw it in the background when you were panning the collection of televisions there and the RCA advertising materials. If there's someone there, you could probably show what the set looks like on the Samsung phone. But that was great. I missed the TV a lot. I really missed that RR359 a lot. But I got a 9-inch GE in the trade, and then the tabletop 1715-inch GE and the TRK5. And I sold the 9-inch General Electric set. I think it's 225, HM225. I sold that to Mike Molnar.
You did.
And oh, there he is. There he is.
Yeah.
Now I know what you look like. I've got an amplifier.
Well, I was at your place. Your memory is fading. I came out to see it first.
Yeah, let me. Yeah. Oh, wow. Finally, yeah, there you are. Okay, and there you have an old radio phonograph right behind you.
Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff here.
Yeah.
But I still have it, and the 9-inch CRT is still good.
Good. Thank heavens. Yeah, I know that the transformer was not good, but it had a good one in it, and you took them both. And I appreciate you buying the set from me. It helped me a lot. I bought a house after the bubble burst. So I think you bought the set from me in 2008. Is that correct? Or 2008, or somewhere around then. You bought it.
They all blend together. I don't know.
Yeah. I put the money in the bank and sat on it, trying to decide what to do with it. And then the real estate market tumbled. And I was able to come up with enough money to buy my house that you see I'm inside. But yeah. And then the houses recovered, market recovered. So it's impossible to buy a house in California now, but at the time I was just able to do it.
But don't tell my wife I paid enough for you to put a down payment on a house.
Well, after the house market crashed, that's
Okay.
when down payment on the house. And I won't tell your wife. I don't know.
So they went to the aquarium while I was visiting you, so they got to miss the financial dealings that went on.
Okay. Yeah. No, and I'm glad you have that TV. It's in a good home. Do you ever watch it? Ever fire it up?
Right now, it's tucked behind something, so I have to move I have a Philco 6-inch pre-war set in front of it, a very rare bird, and it's next to an RR359, and on the other side is a TT5, and then a little over from that is then I get the color sets, Zenith 15-inch and a Model 5. So it's in a nice neighborhood.
Yeah, well, at least the GE is not lonely. Yeah, it's in a nice neighborhood. It's still got its friends. Your Philco 6-inch set, is that a tabletop set?
Yeah.
Okay. One on the
It
website.
used to be Chuck Gasolina's, and he showed it to a number of people. You might have seen it.
Yeah. Very rare. What's the picture tube in that set? In the Philco?
It's like a one of. It's not a common number.
Okay. Yeah. Actually a little larger than a 5 BP4 then?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. As is the GE 225. That was basically a unique picture tube, I think, to that model. I don't think it wouldn't work in a TRK9. It's not the same tube. And I'm just glad I got it out of earthquake country.
Yeah, that's right.
Speaking of earthquakes, we have a Baird. I can't remember the model number. 1938 model set. It sounds old. P18C, and there is only one other one in existence, and it's in San Francisco somewhere.
Right.
And the design of the set is such that it's very top heavy. And it resulted in, during the earthquake, it fell over smashed the CRT.
Oh,
Now that set is now, it was donated to the museum, and that set was in our auction, and one of our board members, Matthew DeSaro, has bought it and is in the process of restoring it. I don't know what he's going to do for a CRT, but everything else is there.
Did those pre-war sets use electrostatic scanning? How did they do the scanning of the tube, the picture tube?
Well, they're a combination. The 5-inch sets, the 5-inch American sets are electrostatic, as are the Dumont pre-war sets. The 9 and 12-inch sets are electromagnetic, as are all of the British sets, except maybe one.
So they have a scanning coil, not the
Yeah,
plate.
it's just like the post-war sets.
Okay. Okay. What was the advantage of one over the other, if any?
Well, when the electrostatic, the problem with it is that as you increase the voltage, if you want more brightness, you've got to increase the anode voltage.
Is that the acceleration voltage?
And so, the circuitry to drive deflection plates with high anode voltages was difficult, if not impossible. The Dumont did it, and their picture is relatively bright. But to get a bright image, you needed to go to electromagnetic deflection because you could put energy into the coils to deflect the beam with a lower DC voltage on the tubes.
Oh, and just for those worried about earthquakes, I strapped the TVs to the wall. There's a application. You find a stud, attach a strap to that, and then secure the TVs without doing anything to the TV. There's enough holes in the TVs that you can take strong nylon string and attach it to the strap and just keep it from doing that. So all the TVs are secured. And Monterey, well, the last time they had that big earthquake in the San Francisco Bay Area, and people died in Santa Cruz and in Watsonville, what's not too far away. Nothing was destroyed in Monterey or Seaside or Marina in our area because we have bedrock under us. So we're not really a high risk earthquake area. So I'm grateful for that.
Well, folks, I'm going to have to leave. Keep up the conversation as long as you want. And thanks for attending, and we'll see you next month, hopefully.
Okay. I see James O'Neill there. I haven't seen his picture, but I see his name, and I know he has a Russian RR 359, I believe, and I knew him when I lived in the Carolinas.
He may just be listening. I don't know.
Yeah. Right.
He also, like Mike, he has an RCA Model 5. And he's right now restoring the 21 CT55 from the museum. So he's a busy guy.
Where is James living these days?
He's got a couple of homes.
Okay.
So down south, like Arkansas somewhere, and then he lives near Washington, D.C.
That's where I remember him being from. And he came down to Charlotte, and I exhibited the RR 359 at their AWA meet that they have once a year. And that's right after it got restored. And then I moved to Indiana later. And it's interesting to know where people are from, if anybody wants to mention where they're located, what city or town. So Mike Molnar is in New Jersey, as I recall.
Yep, still am and sweating it out this week. It's miserably hot and humid.
Yeah. And Dave, are you in Carmel or Carmel?
Yeah, now I understand why you call it Carmel, because it's right next to Monterey. But yeah, we call it
Right.
Carmel. And
Carmel.
although right now I'm sitting on the East Coast, I'm in Baltimore,
Hmm.
working. Yeah.
And sweating.
Yeah. Well, I'm in a new hotel, so it's very cool, very nice.
Yeah. Okay, we got somebody in New Jersey.
Wayne, did you you retired to Texas? Is that right? Oh, you're on mute.
Nope. This is southern Arizona, south
Southern
from
Arizona.
Tucson.
Speaking of hot, wow,
Yeah, and that's our artificial lake here in Rancho Sorita.
beautiful.
Oh. Okay, so are we equally split, or most people are in the Eastern Seaboard area or Midwest, right?
I think it seems like that when you look at the people who make it to the convention anyway.
Well, yeah, I can't go to the convention. It's someday I might get back there, maybe next year, but would never be able to buy anything. The shipping rate is outrageous.
Yeah, but you'd be surprised what people buy and have shipped.
Mm,
You know, particularly, I was so pleased to hear you, Nat, mention Ed Reitan.
yeah.
You know, Ed's collection went through the museum, and there were people who bought pieces and parts, and you know, restored and unrestored, and some of those things have been restored, which are nice.
He was a friend that goes back to the 80s, the late 1980s that I knew. I went to his apartment one time to look at his TVs in Los Angeles. And at the time, I was working at the Smithsonian, and we were trying to get together an exhibit on called The Information Age, about communications and computer processing. And he was kind of the authority of color television. So I somehow got in touch with him, probably through Elliot Sivowicz, who's passed away as well. He was at the Smithsonian, is an engineer there. And yeah, it's just a lot of nice memories. I remember seeing him after he lost a lot of weight and attended one of the ETF conventions. So yeah. And I haven't seen Jeff Lindero since I was in Indiana. He
Actually just retired. He's out on the East Coast now, Vermont, I think, or somewhere like that. He loves to ski, and not a lot of skiing in Indiana, but
no.
he left Thompson and got a great job out on the East Coast. And his daughter lives in the Indianapolis area, but he has retired. I haven't spoken with him recently, but I just know that that's his current situation.
Yeah. Well, I remember buying that DTC 100 digital receiver in South Carolina, and then I moved to Indianapolis to work at the Children's Museum and met up with him, and he sold me this enormous CRT high definition television set.
Oh, yes.
And you attach the DTC 100 to it, and that's how I was able to actually watch the very first HD programs in Indiana. And before that, I watched them just on a CRT, standard definition NTSC set. But that thing, even on the standard definition TV, delivered the best color picture that no cable company could give you. And
was it the widescreen set or just a 4x3 set?
Oh, the Jeff Lindero sold me it was a gray model that he said was manufactured around 95 or 96, RCA manufacturer. And it had RGB separate inputs, and there was a converter box that attached to that.
Yeah.
And that enabled it to have one of those 16-pin connectors to the DTC 100.
Yeah. Okay. I think that was probably the 38-inch widescreen set. Probably there were two models. There was three models actually. There's a ProScan and an RCA. Not too many of those were made, and we discovered we had some quality control problems because people were reporting color shifting. And we found out the issue was we didn't detect it in Life Test in Bloomington because the picture tube was so big that the Earth's magnetic pole would change the color of the set depending on what wall it was put on.
Oh,
So, I mean, nobody had done that before. So, of course, there was eventually an electronic fix to that problem, but
mhm.
not one that we detected at the factory until later. So,
That's like going back to the early color days without an automatic degausser. You know, my CTC5 stands at 45 degrees in the corner, and I'm never going to move it.
funny you say that, Wayne, because when I got my 21 CT55 working, Ed Milburn came over and degaused it, and he says, "Now, if you move this thing in my basement, if you move it, I'm going to have to come back, you know, and get the color
Mhm.
looking right again." So,
The thing that's really bad about it is it has that metal tube with the edge magnets. And if you ever do anything to mess it up, you can't just degauss it. You have to screw the magnets back into their keepers and totally redo the purity setup.
Oh.
Degauss it with the magnets in the keepers. Otherwise, you regauss it with the opposite of the edge magnets. And you can walk yourself totally out of the possibility of ever adjusting it.
Mhm.
Nat, I'm going to put my email in the chat. I would love
Okay.
I'd love to connect with you, especially since you once lived in Indy.
Yeah. Okay. There it is. Dave Arland.
Arlandcom is my company. So davidarlandcom.com.
Okay. I will now.
I know you don't want to come to the convention because you're afraid you'll buy something, but we would love to have you come back. And it really, just to underscore the point that Steve made earlier, it's amazing how younger people are coming, not in, hundreds of people, but we had probably 24 faces that we'd never seen before. And they're mostly interested in 90s era picture tube televisions for video gaming purposes. So those are the things that were really hot at the auction, less so the sets we've all been talking about tonight. So.
Okay. I'll put my phone number in the email that I'm now sending you.
Okay, great. And Mike, I've got to go as well, but thanks for your continued work on the newsletter. That's a fun thing to read.
Thank you. And I think Keith Park was on, I want to thank him for his contribution of an article this month. And I accept articles and contributions from everybody. I'm tired of writing some of this stuff myself. And I this month promoted the CTC5 that's in the sweepstakes. I'm going to do an article about the FATA for next month. So maybe that'll entice some people to buy more tickets.
Great. Good night, all.
Yeah, I'm going
Okay.
to go up too.
Email has been sent.
That I'm logging off, but it's good to see your vertical. I don't, there's too many times I don't hear that about people that I haven't seen in a long time.
Yeah. Well, I ended up with the 185 to replace the 225 of the GEs. Eric Kuhn wanted the money and he was selling it at a fire sale. And so I bought it. I got the 185 back there.
That's great. One time you'll have to take your camera around and give us a tour on one of these Zoom meetings.
Okay. All right. Is it always like the last Saturday of the month?
Yeah,
Is that when they,
unless there's some conflict that Steve lets us know about.
yeah,
Or you can look in the newsletter that comes out the week before.
right, right. I get that. I'm a member. And yeah, maybe the next meeting or in October, we'll just see. Eventually, I'll put you on my phone so I
There
can
you
walk
are.
around because you're on a laptop right now, and put it on the phone and walk around the house. And I basically have 6 television sets, and they're all the 2 GEs and 4 RCAs. And the RCAs, of course, I mentioned the TT5 and the TRK5, but there's also a 621 and a 721, which is the very first television, early television that I ever got for $25, and I've had it since high school.
Yeah, there you go.
I can't get rid of that because it's just too much nostalgia to tie it into the 721.
Yep. All right, well, I'm going to log off. It was great seeing you.
Okay, goodbye, everybody.
Okay,
All
yeah,
right.
Nate, I'll reach out to you so we can get you slotted in for an upcoming meeting. That'll be great. That'll be wonderful.
Okay. Alrighty.
Well, I'll say goodnight too.